300 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah, yeah.
How much is that worth?
£80 million.
Oh my God.
This is the story of an Essex boy who started out as a small-time drug dealer.
Go and pick a bag up, deliver the bag there, drive around in Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Because of the money involved, I knew it's got to have been Class A.
But soon found himself caught up in one of the country's biggest ever drug busts.
An Essex gang have been arrested with nearly 300 kilos of cocaine.
Oh my God, I didn't realise I was this deep in crime.
This was one of the country's biggest ever undercover drug busts.
They've infiltrated our gang. He had a skin-coloured earpiece in. I got a phone call saying the job's gone over. Every man for themselves, go on the run, just leave the country. I've gone over to the police and I said, what's going on? They all started shouting. They went, are you Frank Stedman? I said, yeah. They said, you're nicked. And I'm like, oh my God, put the gun down.
I've read a bit of your story, Frank.
Yeah.
You have completely turned your life around. You and I both actually grew up in the same area. What was it like growing up in Epping, in Essex?
I was just a lost little kid. I wasn't a career criminal. I just ended up getting in with the wrong crowd. And I think I was really easily led. And I played men's football really young. So I'd be in the pub at like 15, 16. All of a sudden everyone knows you and you're holding the door for someone. And then it's, oh, tell us if someone's coming. You sort of know what they're doing. And then it'd be, tell me someone's coming because they're beating the crap out of somebody. And then you sort of be trusted.
So you were going out from a young age.
Yeah.
You were kind of mixing with
Adults.
these older crowds.
Yeah.
And you started to be asked to do little odd jobs for people.
Yeah, it'd
that
be
you were
running
mixing
here,
with.
there. Yeah, it'd be sort of run that down the end of, run that to that pub, this pub. It was like, oh, here's go and do that for us. You come back and oh, here's 40 quid and me and my mates would just buy each other a drink.
And you knew at the time, when you were dropping these little packages off, you knew that there were drugs in there.
I knew it was, yeah. I didn't know whether it was either money or drugs, but I knew what I was doing because of the people that I was doing it for. I wasn't like, and I'm not going to lie, probably part of me at that age liked it because, you know, you jump in the queues and you're talking to the lads that everyone's, oh, you're friends with him, I'll leave him alone. And I used to think, oh, this is good.
Did you believe that the only way for you to make a lot of money was going to be through drugs?
At the time, yeah. At the time, I thought to myself, I'm not going to be able to make any money doing anything. My parents weren't business people. I didn't know any business people. The only people I knew that had money at the time were the people doing that job. I wasn't smart at school. I really wasn't. And I found out later on I was dyslexic. So I don't know whether that played a part of being a bit insecure. You know, I'm not going to have a good job. But thinking back now, what, you know, a good job is just paying your bills and going to work. I looked at people around me and thought, hold on a minute, he's got nice clothes on. Look at this bloke not going to work on a Monday morning. And then think, you know, when I get older, I want to be cool like him. But you don't think, you know, what they're doing for a job isn't cool.
When did things start to turn for you? Kind of what happened in your later teens?
So I met a girl and I was sort of like 19, 20 at the time. And then had my son, me and my kid's mum, we got a house. And stopped all of that, sort of stepped away from it, stepped away from the people that were doing it. And I was scaffolding, and I think the mortgage was 1,300 and I was earning 1,400 quid a month.
Wow.
Sort of that went on for like a year. And I remember coming out of Tesco's, do you remember the blue stripe food? Tesco Value, do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that, yeah. Vaguely.
Showing your age, vaguely. And I remember coming out when my son was young and I had a trolley full of blue stripe food. And I had that moment, where I thought to myself, I've not gone anywhere in life. I've had a kid too young. I was 20. And I thought, Jesus, I'm 20 years old and I've got to pay a mortgage and that. Sort of had a bit of a meltdown and I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. Made one phone call and I was straight back into selling drugs. And that's when I started ticking drugs, which is sort of like borrowing it. So I'd say to someone I knew, can you give me the drugs and I'll sell it and pay you back every week. Or every week really.
So you were like, on street dealer level?
Street dealer, yeah. So it was like the lowest of the low. I was buying it and selling it to people in pubs. And I'd just answer the phone, go and meet people or tell them to meet me here, there and everywhere.
How did you feel about making that jump at the time? Did you quit your job scaffolding?
No, so I was scaffolding and I was doing that overnight and I was probably earning, you know, 500 quid a week on top of my scaffolding money. So you laugh, I wasn't really making any money. We was getting by, but we ended up having like money where we could go out for something to eat or we could go on a holiday once a year. So I'd done that for maybe a year or two and then things weren't good with my kid's mum, so we split up. started staying on friends' sofas and things like that. And that's when I give up scaffolding. And then I got a phone call from someone higher up in the drugs world saying, do you want a job? And I was like, right, what's that mean? And they said, can you come and drop off big amount of drugs and pick up more amount of money? And I said, well, how much? And they said, a lot more.
How much was it?
Well, I didn't know until I got arrested, which is later on. It was bagfuls of money and drugs. I found out in the end, but I just said yes because of the money. They offered me like a month's money scaffolding I was earning a week. So I just said, yeah, I'll do it.
So talk to me about what life is like for you. So you've stopped street dealing as such, and now you are working for this gang.
I solely worked for this gang of people, this group of people, delivering. And it was literally go and pick a bag up, deliver the bag there, pick a bag up here and deliver a bag back. I never looked in the bag. I was too scared to, I suppose. But it was bags. Like you pick up a bag and I used to think to myself, Jesus Christ.
Did you think about the consequences of what you were doing?
I didn't know any criminals. I didn't know anyone who went to prison.
Right.
So in my head, I'm not going to go to prison. Or that's,
like an
that doesn't
ignorance
happen.
is bliss.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Just so like oblivious to what the real world was like, thinking this was the only way forward for me.
But how old were you at that time?
I was 20. I didn't really have any guidance. And I think because I went off to have kids and had my own house, adults sort of stepped back and thought, oh, he's an adult there. But really, I'm 42 and I still could have a bit of guidance. But
also at that age, like when you're 20, you don't think about consequences as much as you do. That part of your brain starts developing as you get older. But at that age, you're a lot more impressionable, aren't you? And it sounds like you were quite like that anyway.
And I think not having money, I thought having money would be the end of all my problems.
How much are you earning a week?
It's like a couple of grand a week. And then it sort of progressed and you do different things and you earn more money. And had my kids on a Wednesday night and weekends and sport them rotten, which probably didn't help. My kid's mum, I think at one point, she did say, like, can you stop doing that? It's like Christmas Day every weekend for them. And I'd be like, well, I'm giving them stuff I didn't have. But you're thinking, kids want love, they don't want like money, do they? You just think, what was I doing? Chasing that money.
Even though you didn't look in the bags and get involved in that side of things, did you know what drugs you were transporting and selling?
Because of the money involved, I knew it's got to have been Class A. I thought pretty much down it would be like either cocaine or...
Do you feel any guilt about what you did?
I knew it really, to be honest, I'd be lying if I said I didn't know what it was. I knew I was getting up to bad, no good.
So you've mentioned, and I've read in your story that you were arrested and you spent some time in prison. But can you talk to me about the main event that led up to that?
Yeah, so it was a sort of a normal day, but at the time I was told, stay local, don't really do anything. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never been told this before. I was told to just get on with your job and left alone. You answer the phone and go and meet people. Really sunny. It was near my dad's birthday and I'm reading this magazine and I got the phone call saying, right, can you come and meet someone at Faden Boys? Silver car. I thought, fair enough. And I sort of always knew who I was meeting because I've been doing it like a year and a bit then. So I've just told, go to Faden Boys, meet Gavin Silver car at a certain road. I can't remember what the road was called. And I'm thinking, right, I've got to be switched on now because this seems like it's a bit more serious than what we normally do.
Really? What made you think that?
Just because of the buzz around it. And they was like, we've got something coming up soon. You need to be available. And that would have meant like, even if your kid's in hospital, you need to be available. Right. And these people you can't say, oh no, I'm not available, I'm having lunch. Like there'd be times I get a phone call and I'd have to just leave the restaurant and go. But this was like, do not organise anything. You need to be available for this day. So I just hung about, got the phone call, went to Faden Boys. And it's funny, I went into the bakery before in Faden Boys to just get lunch because I just told I was going for a drive, I'm going miles away. So I got lunch in the bakery, walked in, and the lady's gone, oh, does anybody want anything else? Like stretched. And I thought she's implying that someone's been in here ages. She didn't know what I'd done, this woman. But I just thought, this is weird. Being paranoid. As I walked out, there's one guy sitting in the window, just staring out of the window. I've got up close to him and I've looked in his cup and he had like the coffee froth, but it looked like it'd been there ages. So I quickly looked him up and down and he had a skin-coloured earpiece in. Wow,
so you're really assessing, were you always quite hyper-vigilant?
And then I've looked this guy up and down, he's in all outdoor clothes, he's got this earpiece in and I'm thinking, oh no. So I've got round to the silver car and I said to the bloke, there's a bloke in that thing and he's got all this on, blah, blah, blah. And he said, don't worry, it's not for us, we're going miles away. So I thought, fair enough. They might have been watching somebody else. It might not have been. And then you start second guessing yourself.
So you've got lunch from the bakery.
Yeah.
You've come back out to your car and you've followed.
Picked some bags up. I met a silver car in Faden Boys, and he said we're going miles away, and we ended up going up to Yorkshire, Pontefract Castle, which is like 4 or 5 hours miles away. And you sort of, where I've been doing it long enough, you sort of learn to just keep your mouth shut, do as you're told. So I was given bags. I knew they were going in my boot. Just follow me. That's so.
Okay.
You don't go, where are we going? The geezer would say, like, what are you going on about? So driving all the way up to there, hours away, pulled up, and I've pulled up near them. They're chatting this van, this car, Land Cruiser thing, and the guy followed in a silver car, which I didn't know, 2 blokes. They're chatting. I got waved over, pulled up. I knew that meant get the bags out. And in my head, I know it means don't give them to the bloke you've followed, give them to the blokes that they're talking to. Mm-hmm. So as I'm doing it, they're like swearing. Like the northern blokes I'm giving the bags to were swearing, and one of them's giving me a phone, put it in my hand and said, mate, can you take the back off my phone? I was like, what are you doing? And I'm paranoid anyway because the bloke earlier, and I thought, why is he telling me to take the back off his phone? So I threw it in his boot, thinking back now, they wanted my fingerprints. That's why he's gave me the phone.
Right, okay.
And handed the bags over. I've got into the car and just thought, oh, that was weird. Because I've been on enough meets now where you'd meet in the street, like I'd meet in London, hand a bag over with thousands or millions of pounds for finding out of drugs. And you'd be like, oh, as a kid, yeah, fine. Did you watch football the weekend? Yeah, see you later. And it was treated like that.
Right, so it was quite a normal interaction.
This one, the swearing. And you find in the drugs world, someone's either got a nice jeans on or a nice watch, something. You don't, and these guys are dressed really rough. But in my head as well, I always second guess myself, thinking, oh, because they're Northerners, I don't know any Northerners, so maybe that's how they dress.
Yeah.
And got back in my car, drove home, looked like I need petrol, pulled into the petrol station. The silver car said, what are you doing? I said, I'll get in some petrol. He said, oh, I'll get a drink. Filling up the petrol, white van's come in. A guy's got out of the white van. It was a bloke from the Faden Boys. And we're talking hours away, 4 hours away. The guy from Faden Boys earlier,
in the bakery,
sitting in the window in the bakery, has got out the van. And I've looked at him and I'm like, oh my God. And the guy in the silver car, I've gone running in and I said to him, do you know the bloke I said earlier? That's the guy in the petrol station. He went, are you kidding me? I said, I'm telling you now, I'm 100% that's him. I didn't know what to do. I'm panicking. I thought, what do I do? So I've run into the toilet, got to the window and it looked at the exit. So I'm at the window in the toilet, standing on the toilet, and then the silver car's gone out and the van's followed the silver car. So I thought, oh, they're following him. Because he was obviously an organiser. Mm-hmm. Me, I was just like Joey. Drove back, made a phone call and told him what I saw. And I was told, oh, you must be imagining it. And I'm like, I'm not the sharpest but I know I wasn't imagining that. Do you know, you think... But anyway, looked up to these guys, respected these guys because of what they do and all that. And I took it as a pinch of salt. About a week later, the kids were at mine, we was at Harlow, driving back. I remember a helicopter behind me and I said to my son in the back, have a look at that helicopter. He said, oh yeah, there's one up there, and I'm driving. So I'm asking my son for a running commentary where the helicopter is, because I've been driving, like, do you know these things you think back, you think, what is wrong with me? Just scummy. Anyway, I digress. Got to my kid's mum's house and it stopped above her house. And I was like, my face dropped. And my kid's mum knew what I was doing.
She was aware that you were in the drug industry?
Yeah, because she knew before when we were together. All the police have come in the road, shut the road off, and I'm panicking now and I'm walking away from the kids. So I thought, I don't want to get beaten up or whatever by the police in front of the kids. And I said to her, take the kids in. She's like, that's for you, innit, you idiot? I went, I think it is. And her face dropped. And the helicopter's above her house. And I've gone over to the police and I said, oh, what's going on? They all started shouting. There's like commotion. I'm thinking, do you know, you're thinking, please don't shoot me. Do you know, you just don't know what's going on. Walking towards them, they said, oh, nothing. And I said, what's going on? As I'm really close to the police car now. And I was just about to say, like, just let me get in the car. And they said, we're looking for someone covered in blood. Straight away, I thought, this isn't for me. I said, no, we haven't seen nothing. Drove off and I was like, oh my God. Rang my kid's mum. I said, that wasn't for me, but I've drove off. I don't know what's happened. And it was the night, Wednesday night at 6, 7-ish. The drug was meant to be picked up. So I think somebody's called the drug pickup off and they was coming to arrest me.
Right, I see. So essentially this was actually a setup.
So yeah, you clued on quicker than I did. So the police were selling the drugs. So the guys I met handing the phones over, they were police officers. So the police pretended they were the importers.
Right, okay.
So that's how they've infiltrated our gang.
The drugs that were initially in the back of the van, were they from the police?
Yes, so...
This is all a setup?
It was a setup. They had to put the drugs in the back of the van because it wouldn't have looked like a drug deal if they didn't put the drugs in the van.
And the reason you weren't arrested that day when you had the helicopter following you and obviously the police outside the property was because I assume they hadn't caught you in the act as they were hoping to.
So the guy picking the drugs up called it off, so it wasn't a crime without picking the drugs up. So
I see.
Because he called it off and said, I don't like this is a bit weird, because he's called it off, the police have gone to arrest me, and all the shouting and commotion I think might have been saying, fall back, because they've called the drugs off. So if they arrested me, I could have turned around and said, what do you mean? I just dropped some money off for some ladders. I know it's a lot of money, but I could have.
I see.
So that's how these have to be done so right on the police's side to get a conviction. So the first time the drugs wasn't picked up, no one was arrested. So they've drove off and not arrested me. And then the second time, about a week later, someone picked up the drugs. And I've got a phone call saying the job's gone over, which means anyone that doesn't know that the police have infiltrated. So yeah, it was an undercover drug bust. And I knew, I'm going to get arrested now.
And this is your superiors?
Yeah, I got a phone call from someone who's saying the job's gone over, go on the run. I'm like, go where? And they said, just leave the country. And I'm like, what do you mean leave the country? He said, go anywhere, don't stay here. And that was it. So
Wow.
I couldn't, the phone was thrown away, and then that was it. The people I used to work for, that's it, see you later. So I went in England, sort of went on the run, told my family, told a couple of friends I've got to go, I can't speak to you, I'll contact you when I don't know. I had some money, but not a lot, that I could live in England and stay in hotels. I was going through money like you wouldn't believe. So I sneaked over to Ireland, just got the last ferry, and then got on a flight and went to Thailand.
When you're in Thailand, do you feel like you've managed to escape?
I was on the
What's
aeroplane
happening at
going there
home?
thinking, yes, I've made it. And then as I landed, I thought, oh no, I'm still going to be wanted by the police.
What happened when you landed in Thailand?
Nothing. I had a lot of cash on me. I've got an open ticket, which I only had a one-way ticket, and they just let me in. At the time, I lived off the money that I had, and then it started running out because I was living in hotels, and then something would happen in a bar, it would kick off. I'm making a beeline to the police officer and giving him money, and he's just letting me slip, and I was just hemorrhaging money. And I was thinking, I can't do this. Panicking the whole time, didn't want to get put in a Thailand prison, and then people started to get raided in England. And I rang my kid's mum and said, listen, if I come home, will you bring the kids up to see me in prison? And she said, what about the people you work for? I said, I don't care. I said, I don't care. You know, I'd rather come home and face the music and whatever happens, happens, than me sitting out in Thailand, like the lonely. I was sitting in Thailand thinking, what am I doing here?
Were you scared to walk away?
I did think to myself, but with all the random roadblocks, I thought, if I get arrested here, my name's on something, and I get put in a Thai prison, I really don't want that. And I remember sitting on a beach, I was watching the sunset, and I remember crying, thinking, what am I doing? I've probably got one of the most beautiful things in front of me, and I'm crying, so I'm like stuck. And my son was like 5, and we were like inseparable. My daughter was only 1. And then my kid's mum, she said, I don't want to cloud your judgment, but he was looking out the window of the bedroom, she was getting ready, and he said, out of the window, it does me every time, out of the window, he said, where's my dad gone? Like, what's happened to my dad? And I thought, Jesus Christ. She told me, and I've started crying a bit on the phone. And I just thought, I'm just going to come home. She said, yeah, right, I'll come home. So I got on the first aeroplane.
Because did you know that
deep down,
the
I knew I was
moment
going
you
to get
landed?
arrested, yeah.
Yeah, but was there a
There
slight
wasn't, yeah,
hope?
maybe. I'm only a divvy kid from Epping. Maybe I might slip the net. So it was a long flight, sitting on the airplane. I've got up, everyone's getting their bags. So we stood up and they said, can everybody get back in their seats? And I'm thinking, this is for me. And I've sat back down. The police have come on, they're pointing over to my seat, and I thought, oh, this is it. And they've come on, and I've stood up, and I'm like, they went, are you Frank Stedman? I said, yeah. They said, you're nicked. And I was like, excuse my language. I said, like, no shit. And I stood up thinking again, right, let's go. And they've like screamed, get back in your seat. And the plane's erupted. And I'm like, oh my God, put the gun down. And then they've handcuffed me, stopped me at the airplane. Everyone's walking past me, the airplane. I'm looking at the floor and I'm thinking, oh my God, what do they think? Like the shame, really, more so. And you don't think of that when you're dealing drugs. It is such a shameful thing to be in. And I found out through interviews and through then, that's when I was arrested with 299 kilos of cocaine. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realise I was this deep in crime. That's like, pretty much, you ain't getting no worse than that.
I've read that this was one of the country's biggest ever undercover drug busts. Did you know that at the time?
I didn't know that at the time, though. I wished I did. And if I went with my gut instinct from that first meeting, I wouldn't have maybe not sitting in prison.
So 300 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah.
How much is that worth?
They said the street value was worth, I think, £80 million.
Oh my God.
Last opportunity, I pleaded guilty because I thought to myself, I just want to get this over and done with. I'm guilty. A video come out with me in the car, dropping them bags off in that meet earlier on, and everyone was going not guilty, and I was just like, I don't care.
How did the thought of going to prison make you feel?
I didn't know what I was expecting. I was worried because I had like long blonde hair, called a pretty boy all my life, and you hear the horrific things, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what is going to happen to me in prison? But I was good at football, so I sort of slipped into the prison and I used I was like the class clown, doing all acting silly things. So I sort of slipped into prison a little bit, and then a month into my prison sentence, they've called my name out in the yard. I'm like, oh, what now? And as we got down to legal visits, I've looked and I've seen my brother, and straight away I had something bad's happened.
Right, okay.
So I'm thinking, why is he here? Because it was middle of the day, not visits. And I said, it's Kane, innit? My older brother. What's happened? Thinking he's had a car crash or something's happened. And he's like, he's died. And I was like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? What do you mean he's died? But found out, he took his own life, my older brother. And yeah, so I'd only been in prison a month, and you think, Jesus Christ, like what now?
Right.
So then just had to go back to the win and pretend it didn't happen, sort of thing. But this, don't want anybody seeing this feeling sorry for me. If you get involved in crime, this is what happens. And then I got put into segregation for 10 days. So that was just a cell.
Why?
Because they said that the funds in my case and the organised crime I was involved in, they said that I had funds to break out of prison. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to go to a funeral, put in segregation for 10 days. And that 10 days is just changed who I was, really.
How did you go about trying to process the emotion of your brother taking his life? I don't know.
My family seem to think I haven't dealt with it even now, but it's not. I think I just put it in a box and just swallowed it.
You're in such a high stress, high pressure environment in prison, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and then when I got put into segregation, and it is what you think in the films, I literally laid there. It was a bed, a chair, integrated toilet, no television, no nothing, and there was human faeces all over the wall in segregation. You just get let out of. They let you out, put you in the shower, lock you in.
How long did you spend in prison in total?
So I got 9-year prison sentence. Wow. So I'd done half, which is 4.5 years, and then I'd done another half, 4.5 years on probation.
What was that 4.5 years like in prison?
It's hard. Like you try and make the best of a bad situation. Like someone gets stabbed on the wing and you step over them and you say to your mate, you get so desensitised. You say to your friend, oh, we're not going to get gym later. Where some poor bloke's bleeding out on the floor. You're more worried about going gym. It just really desensitises you, and you've got to be that person that you don't want to be.
So when you're released from prison, how do you feel?
Everyone locally knows. It was in the newspapers. I remember picking the kids up from school and looking at the playground floor, just like really ashamed, looking around thinking, oh, please do they not know? They don't know, do they? And you feel like you've got a big stamp on you. But like a week later, after everything died down, I thought, oh no. What am I going to do now? And I still had them insecurities of not getting a good job, even more so now because I've been in prison. I actually went back to work within scaffolding within a week of getting out.
Wow.
And
what was that adjustment like?
Yeah, that was too soon. I wanted to pick my kids up from school and go and see their plays and things. 5 years of my life wasn't that long, well, it was, but my kids' life, my daughter was 1, she was 5 when I got out, and I was a stranger to her, and my son was 5, and he was 10 when I got out, and it was coming out to a little adult. So I felt like I've missed, even now, I've got that hang up, I've missed loads. But then I started working a few years, and then I had a heart attack when I was 38.
Wow.
It was an infection. I say a heart attack. They called it a heart attack, but it was an infection called myocarditis. My heart closed up, and I was at work, and it went bang. And then that's when I was out of work for 16 months, and then started talking in schools. And then it makes you think to yourself, Jesus Christ, this is the real currency of life, and it's actually helping people. And then wrote a book, which was really hard. Wrote a book and just thought I'd get it out there. I just thought it'd be funny, the dyslexic thicko Frank from school. If we went back to school and everyone said, who's written a book, everyone would definitely not point at me. And just got into that and just realised that there's a massive world out there and you can make a bit of a difference. And just sort of trying to raise awareness to stop kids going down the path I went down, and the stigma for ex-prisoners, and you can get out of prison and get on with your life, and we're not all scumbags. And maybe in the beginning I was sort of shown a life that was, the flashing lights, but it's not all, everyone thinks it's all Range Rovers and flash watches. It really isn't. Your family get taken away from you. The first time my daughter walked and talked was in a visit in Belmarsh. That's bad, isn't it? First time my son read to me was on my lap in a visit. Like, these things you cannot take back.
Yeah.
In their early days, I've not been a great dad, have I really? Going to prison, and it was my choice, all of that. When you overstep the line, I'm just thinking to myself, I can make a bit of money, get in and get out, which is impossible. You can't.
Yeah. And it sounds like once you're in these circles and once you're in with these people, you can't just walk away.
It doesn't end nicely because you either get arrested and then they're all panicking that you're going to say something. That's why I just straight away went guilty. You either get shot and you leave the criminal world in a box.
If anyone watching this could take something away from this conversation, what would you want them to take away?
Apart from, don't commit crime. I see a quote, this isn't my quote, it's probably some Marcus Aurelius thing, and it said, quickest way of getting where you want to get to is slowly. And I wished I knew that years ago.
Yeah. I think your story is an example of people can turn down the wrong path, but it doesn't mean that it's forever.
Yeah, if anybody in their teens are getting dragged down that path, just turn around and go back. Go to an adult, just find someone that will back you and just turn around and leave it.
Thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been incredible to hear your story.
Thank you.